With Butte approving the consent decree, economic leaders are hopeful about the city's future.
And Memorial Day, of course, is this coming Monday, but the pandemic won't stop a local organization from honoring those we've lost.
Good morning, Southwest Montana. Just ahead of 6:30 on this Friday. Apparently you know who we are, so I'll just leave that there.
Okay, I didn't mean it like that.
No, that's all
if
good.
you're tuning in every day, you know, hopefully
That's right, Sarah. Everybody knows.
That's
right. Steve, how's the weather look over there?
Well, Jim, temperatures into the 30s this morning. Looks like our daytime temperatures will be a little cooler than average, scattered showers. Right now, skies are actually clearing out pretty well, Jim. And Sarah, was that who?
Yeah. Morty. It's Morty, by the way, over here.
See if I appear on screen after this.
You may not.
I'm
Maybe
leaving.
None of us will. HR's probably going to be called before it's all said and done.
Pretty much a given, yeah.
Yep. We'll talk more about what you can expect for your Memorial Day holiday coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Steve. 6:29 now. We reported earlier this week that Butte Chief Executive Dave Palmer will be signing the consent decree approving cleanup plans for cleanup of the city's Superfund site.
As MTN's John Amy tells us, this is big news for business in the mining city.
The abandoned mine yards, the Berkeley pit, and a century's worth of mining contamination are the things that have given Butte a stigma over the years. But some believe Butte's recent decision to sign the consent decree to clean up the mess will eventually change that negative perception.
Yeah, I think Superfund can be intimidating. And so having that lifted, that designation being removed, I think is something that'll be good for our community across the board.
The 5-year cleanup will not only remove mine tailings, it will include adding a greenway, replete with parks and an amphitheater. Quality of life improvements that economic leaders believe will make it easier to draw business to Butte.
And simple things like putting in new trash cans or replacing park benches, those little tiny things go a long ways. So the opportunity to have significant large new infrastructure, I think, is something that everyone in our community can benefit from.
Despite Butte's Superfund status, economic leaders have noticed in recent years Butte has generated interest from businesses wanting to locate here.
The level of interest and the level of investment in our community has been incredibly high over the last few years. So to say it's, the only component would be inaccurate because there are so many great things going on for our community.
In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
And Butte's Chief Executive Dave Palmer is expected to sign the consent decree today, and the document will then have to be approved by the federal court in Montana.
In other headlines this morning, we've experienced several shortages because of the COVID-19 pandemic: toilet paper, hand sanitizer, and beef. But for Montana residents, when it comes to that last one, MTN's Andy Johnson tells us we have some choices.
Throughout this pandemic, we've seen the price of certain items go up, and now that includes beef. But by being a Montana resident, we may have access to more solutions.
I'm appalled when I go in there and I look and see how much a pound they're getting for meat.
Crazy.
It's just crazy. So if you can find a local rancher to go to, you're going to save yourself a lot of money.
Beef prices have gone up across the country, leading to a shortage in restaurants and grocery stores.
With the plant shutting down, it's created a demand for it. For the box beef, it's more than doubled in a lot of cases.
But as a Montana resident, you may be in a better position for getting beef at a reasonable price during this shortage.
And Montana raises some of the best beef there is in the United States.
So what are some options?
If people want beef, then we will pull some of them out. We'll finish them right here at home, and then we'll sell right direct to the consumer.
And in some cases, you can buy local beef from select grocery stores.
For local, we have 4 suppliers, and then I buy live beef from a ranch out of Clyde Park.
Klein says a lot of ranchers aren't able to produce the numbers needed to sell to bigger retailers, but for local residents, it's not a problem.
People don't have very much money now, but if we can still do all right and they can save some money, that's our goal here.
For more information on how you can buy local beef, you can find this story on kbzk.com. Reporting in Gallatin County, Annie Johnson, MTN News.
Time now 6:32. One new confirmed case of coronavirus in Montana for today's report in Yellowstone County. The state health department shows 23 active cases, which are clustered around Yellowstone, Bighorn, and Ravalli counties. 3 people are in the hospital. More than 30,500 tests have been completed in Montana.
Well, virtual check-ins, reduced staff, heightened sanitation. Your next trip to the dentist will look a lot different than your last appointment.
Dentists and their staffs both working to protect themselves, but also you. Amanda Brandeis looks at what you can expect and the question to ask about a COVID-19 extra charge before you get in the chair.
Sorry. At this dentist office,
So it's good to see you guys all back.
it feels like the first day of school.
One of the best ways we can keep the office safe is to make sure that the virus is outside of the office.
After being home for weeks, staff must learn how to do their jobs in a pandemic.
Cavities haven't paused, gum disease hasn't paused. Little cavities have turned into big cavities. Big cavities have turned into infections and swellings.
Dr. Kami Haas is co-founder of the Super Dentists, a practice for kids. They've modified nearly every aspect of the patient experience.
In some cases, the waiting room could be your car. At this office, patients will wait until they get a text message letting them know it's time for their appointment.
And in the meantime, patients can fill out paperwork on their phone.
We are at a very high-risk profession. But on the flip side of it, it's something that we've had to deal with for decades, right?
The goal is to keep sick people out of the office. Patients can expect a screening over the phone and also in person, asking if they've been exposed to COVID-19 or have any symptoms. The actual waiting room will no longer have magazines, coffee, or toys.
On the patient side, it's going to be fairly safe. It's really mostly the dentists that are going to be at risk or the hygienists, and that's where they're going to be wearing a lot of great PPEs.
This protective gear also protects the patient in case their provider has the virus. Some offices are charging patients a $10 to $15 fee to cover the added cost. The American Dental Association urges them to disclose this to patients up front. As for procedures, some like fillings and teeth cleanings will be modified to reduce aerosols, the tiny droplets of saliva and water that come from a patient's mouth. Dr. Haas will be using a high-tech machine to suction these liquid droplets. He's also upgraded the ventilation system and installed UV light cleaning technology.
We've done all of those additional things because we want to make sure that we create an environment that I feel comfortable having my own family here, and I feel like we're there.
He wants patients to know the dentist office is safe. And after weeks of delayed appointments, avoiding care could do more harm than good. In San Diego, I'm Amanda Brandeis reporting.
The American Dental Association is asking insurance companies to help dentists cover the increased cost of personal protective gear. Until then, you should ask your dentist ahead of time if there will be any additional charges. If you can, make sure to fill out your paperwork online before your visit. There are no virtual check-ins. Bring your own pen to be safe, and notify your dentist if you begin to show COVID-19 symptoms 14 days after your appointment.
All good advice there. Back here on the local scene this morning, Bozeman City Commission gave the green light to an affordable housing project earlier this week. Bridgerview redevelopment plan located on an 8-acre site east of the new Story Mill Community Park. The site was the Bridgerview Mobile Home Park until 2007. Development will consist of 63 homes. 31 of the homes will go for the market rate, while the other half will be targeted to local working families who are priced out of the Bozeman housing market.
If you took 100% of the area median income for a household of 4, that would mean that half of the households make more and half make less. That's just the basic, this is area median income. And they use that to kind of set their policy boundaries around where they invest funds.
By the way, that land was donated by the Trust for Public Land back in 2019 to the HRDC to help develop a compact neighborhood. Homes are expected to be available by fall of 2022.
Yellowstone National Park opened 2 of its 5 gates on Monday, and today officials are letting us know what they're seeing for visitors. At the east entrance near Cody, Wyoming, these first 3 days, 90% of normal traffic and about 60% of normal through the south entrance near Jackson, Wyoming. Officials seeing less than 20% of the normal traffic than when all 5 entrances are open. It is expected with the Memorial Day weekend that traffic and visitors will go up. And Glacier National Park officials plan to reopen the park in early June, but not on June 1st when Phase 2 begins. When it does open, there will be limited access and visitor services. Memorial Day is, of course, coming up on Monday, and MTN's John Miller brings us coverage of an American Legion event to honor the veterans who have passed away.
It's a few days away from Memorial Day, and the American Legion gathered at Sunset Hills Cemetery on Thursday.
We're honoring our forefathers' graves, if you will, that fought before us for this great country.
Veterans, children, families, and everyday citizens were at the cemetery to place flags at the graves of each and every veteran who has passed away, over 2,500 of them.
Many of them gave their all for this country. There are obviously people here who spent time in the military. They had productive lives after that and passed away, and now they're here in this cemetery, and I think it's always a good thing to honor them.
For the veterans at the American Legion, the turnout at Thursday's event meant a lot to them.
It gives us all, especially for those of us who've served, a moment to thank the community for the way they support us.
You come to an event like this where this is being done, and you realize that this country is full of great people, and Bozeman and Montana are full of great people.
Even the scouts from Troop 619 showed up today to help and pay their respects.
It's a good opportunity for the girls to come out and, learn about Memorial Day and what it means, and respect those who gave their lives.
In the end, it was a time for the veterans in the community to come together, but most of all, it's about honoring those who sacrificed everything for the freedoms we are afforded today.
I think it's a moment to reflect on those who've served, so many people who've sacrificed everything.
In Bozeman, John Miller, MTN News.
And just an added note, our reporter and sportsman John Miller, who just did that story, is a veteran himself, served as a Marine, including a tour in Afghanistan.
Thanks to all, and we thank all of those who paid the ultimate price for
Yes,
our
we
freedoms out there on this Memorial Day weekend. We're going to take a quick break here on Montana This Morning. When we come back, you might not be ready to head out on a flight just yet, but if you are, we'll show you the new challenges you might face when you're heading through airport security. That's coming up next, but first let's check in with our friends at CBS This Morning.
Good morning to you. Ahead on CBS This Morning, as coronavirus restrictions continue to relax, we'll take a look at the way states are keeping beaches safe, plus your questions on how to enjoy your summer during this pandemic. There are some ideas. Also, Dr. Tara Narula gives her perspective on a rare condition in children linked to the coronavirus that may also impact young adults. Plus, billionaire investor Robert Smith joins us this morning to talk about what his company is doing to help minority-owned small businesses. And we'll take a scientific look at the popularity of those quarantine makeovers. You've seen them. Those stories and more. We'll see you at 7 o'clock on the dot.